I stared at the ceiling fan as it spun above me, still half naked under the soft weight of his sheets, the scent of his cologne sinking into my skin like a bruise I couldn't wash off. My heart was thudding so violently I thought it might give me away before I even got home. But it was the silence afterward, the way he didn't say anything, just lit a cigarette and turned away, that broke me in half. He was my therapist. And I was the patient who crossed the line we both swore never to cross. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't passionate. It was something darker, like a release I didn't know I needed until it was too late. I made it home just after 9. My husband, Daniel, was curled up on the couch watching reruns, still in the hoodie I bought him last Christmas. He looked up at me and smiled like nothing had changed. But everything had. I walked past him, trembling, into the bathroom, locked the door, and sobbed so violently I thought I'd throw up. And when I finally stepped out, mascara streaked, nose red, I collapsed into his arms like a child, crying for something he would never understand. He held me. And I let him. But my guilt screamed louder than his love ever could. Before I tell you what happened next, make sure you're alone, because this story doesn't have heroes. Just choices. The first time I lied to him, I didn't even realize it was a lie. I sat on that gray couch across from Dr. Callum Hayes and said, "I'm fine. I just want to fix my marriage." I remember the way he nodded, slow and patient, pen tapping lightly on his notebook like he already knew better. Callum had this calm, unshakable energy, like nothing I said could surprise him. At first, that terrified me. And then, it made me feel safe in a way I hadn't felt in years. Maybe ever. I'd been with Daniel for 8 years. Married for 5. On paper, everything looked perfect, weekend getaways, dinner parties, matching mugs, all of it. But underneath the routine was a hollow ache. He loved me, yes. But it was the kind of love that sat quietly in the next room while I cried myself to sleep. He never cheated. Never screamed. Never hit me. But he also never asked what was eating me alive, even when the evidence was there, in my silence, my weight loss, the sex that stopped meaning anything. Callum was different. His office became the only space where I didn't have to pretend. I started talking about my dreams, my fears, my doubts, about motherhood, my body, the fact that I fantasized about running away without leaving a note. I told him things I hadn't even admitted to myself. And he just listened. God, he listened like he was trying to memorize my voice. One day, 3 months into our sessions, I wore a dress I hadn't worn since before I got married. It was black, tight, unapologetically low-cut. I told myself it was just laundry day, but I caught him staring. And instead of feeling shame, I felt powerful. Desired. Alive. That night, I touched myself in the shower while imagining his mouth on my neck, not my husband's. It scared me, and thrilled me in equal measure. The next session, I confessed to a dream I had about Callum. I said it lightly, like a joke, expecting him to redirect, deflect, stay professional. But he didn't. He asked, "What did the dream make you feel?" And I said, "Seen." He didn't write that down. That should have been the red flag. But instead, it was the crack that let everything else pour in. Daniel started noticing my distance. He asked if I was okay, if I was overworking myself. I told him I was just tired. He kissed my forehead and brought me tea. I hated him for it. For being so gentle, so clueless, so easy to lie to. One Thursday, Callum canceled our usual session. I told Daniel I was still going. I left the house anyway. I sat in my car for an hour just staring at the steering wheel, then drove around aimlessly, letting my guilt get swallowed by the hum of the highway. When I saw Callum again the following week, he said, "You don't have to perform here." And I don't know what came over me, but I started crying, right there, right in front of him, like a damn faucet. He came over, handed me a tissue, sat on the edge of the couch beside me. Too close. And I didn't move away. The second lie wasn't even a sentence. It was silence. The silence when his hand grazed my knee and I didn't flinch. When his touch lingered longer than necessary. When I let my breath hitch and didn't apologize for it. I didn't tell Daniel about that session. I told him we talked about childhood trauma. The next time I went in, Callum closed the blinds. I asked why. He said the sun was too harsh today. But it wasn't. The day was overcast. And I liked the lie. It started small. The brush of a hand when he passed me tissues. The way his eyes stayed on my lips when I talked about Daniel. The way he started calling me Elle instead of Elena, like he was trying to carve a nickname into the intimacy. I should have stopped it. I should have said something. But I didn't. I soaked it in like sun after a storm. And part of me, maybe the most dangerous part, believed he needed me, too. That Thursday, I wore red lipstick. Not for Daniel. For Callum. I told myself it was harmless. That it was just a way to feel in control. But when he opened the door to his office and said, "Wow," under his breath, it felt anything but harmless. His eyes didn't scan me professionally. They devoured. And I let them. We talked about control that session. How I felt I had none in my marriage. How Daniel made all the decisions, from what toothpaste we used to when we had sex. I was spiraling, unraveling, confessing every insecurity like I wanted Callum to catch them before they hit the floor. "You deserve to feel wanted," he said. "I don't," I whispered. "Not really." And then he did it. He touched my face, just below the jawline. His thumb brushed the side of my mouth. And I didn't stop him. I leaned into it. "Callum," I said. "I shouldn't," he muttered. "But you will." The kiss was slow. Intentional. Like he wanted to give me every chance to pull away. But I didn't. I kissed him back like I'd been waiting my whole life for someone to ruin me and finally had the courage to let them. When we broke apart, the room went silent. No clocks ticking. No cars outside. Just breath and skin and heat. "We can't do this," he said. "We already did." I went home that night feeling hollow and euphoric all at once. Daniel was in bed, reading some article about cholesterol or something equally mundane. He asked if I wanted tea. I said no and went to take a shower. I sat on the floor of the tub, hot water scalding my thighs, trying to cry and failing. The next morning, I told myself it had been a lapse in judgment. I would never cross that line again. But I went back. And it didn't stop at kissing. He locked the office door this time. Said it was to avoid interruptions. I nodded, like I believed him. I don't know how long it lasted, 10 minutes? 20? I was half naked, bent over his couch, a place that once felt sacred now reduced to sweat and friction and shame. He didn't undress me slowly. He didn't whisper sweet things. It was raw, fast, and full of tension. Afterward, he sat down, breathing hard, buttoning his shirt. "We shouldn't talk about this," he said. I laughed. A bitter sound. "Isn't that the entire point of therapy?" He didn't smile. I walked out without saying goodbye. The guilt hit me full force on the drive home. Not because of what I'd done, but because of what it meant. I had no idea who I was anymore. I had become the woman I used to judge. The one who cheated and then cried about it. That night, I asked Daniel if he thought we were happy. He looked up from his bowl of cereal, confused. "Are you okay?" "No," I said. "But I will be." He came over and hugged me. Told me we'd figure it out. Told me he loved me. And I cried in his arms for the second time that week. This time, I didn't fake it. Callum started texting me after sessions. At first, it was about scheduling. Then it was compliments. Then it was 2 a.m. messages like "I can't stop thinking about you and you're the only person who actually sees me." It felt addictive, like I was the center of someone's universe for once. But it was also suffocating. I was living 2 lives, and both were starting to close in. Daniel began noticing the way I jumped at phone notifications. He asked me if there was someone else. Not in an accusatory way. Just quiet, tentative heartbreak. I shook my head. Lied through my teeth. Said I'd never do that to him. He believed me, because why wouldn't he? I was his wife. The person who never even flirted too long with a waiter. One afternoon, I met Callum outside his office, in his car. We didn't speak much. He just kissed me like he was starving, and I let him unzip my dress right there in the passenger seat. I was dizzy with it. This version of me, wild, untethered, desired, was taking over. I liked who I was with him. And I hated myself for liking it. But the high didn't last. Callum started getting possessive. He questioned why I didn't respond fast enough. Why I canceled a meetup. He once sent 30 messages in a row, ending with, "Don't treat me like a dirty secret." That line stuck. Because that's exactly what he was. A secret I kept buried under polite smiles and marriage counseling brochures. I started to pull away. He noticed. The next session was tense. He didn't smile when I walked in. Didn't offer me water. Just sat there with his arms crossed like I'd wronged him. "You've been distant," he said. "I've been tired," I lied. He leaned forward. "You're scared of how you feel." "I'm scared of what I've become." He stood up. Walked around the desk. Sat beside me again, like the first time. "I know this is messy," he whispered. "But it's real. We're real." I looked at him and realized something terrifying. I didn't know if I agreed. That night, Daniel found my burner phone. I'd bought it stupidly, thinking it was some kind of safety net, a way to compartmentalize everything. But I left it in my tote bag, unlocked. He came into the bedroom, white as a ghost, holding it like it was radioactive. "Who is he?" My stomach dropped. I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. "Elena, who the hell is he?" Still, silence. He sat down, put his head in his hands, and let out a sound I'll never forget. It wasn't rage. It wasn't shouting. It was the sound of someone breaking. "I gave you everything," he said. "I never even looked at another woman." I knelt beside him, crying, grabbing his hands, trying to say something, anything, but the words just felt too small. "I'm sorry," I whispered. He didn't yell. He didn't hit anything. He just walked out of the room. That night, I had my first panic attack. I couldn't breathe. My chest felt like it was caving in. I texted Callum, desperate, shaking. He replied instantly, "I'll come get you." And just like that, I let the man who helped destroy me become the one to hold me while I fell apart. He picked me up just past midnight. I was still in my robe, barefoot on the curb, hands trembling, mascara smudged. I didn't even pack a bag. I just climbed into Callum's car like a fugitive running from her own life. He didn't say anything, just reached over and held my hand like it was his duty now to fix me. But that was the lie we both lived inside. He wasn't fixing me. He was finishing me off. He took me to his apartment. I'd never seen it before, just imagined it in the way you imagine forbidden places, dim lighting, books stacked on floors, art he didn't fully understand hanging on the walls. And it was exactly that. Chaotic. Quiet. Lonely. We didn't sleep together that night. We just lay side by side, fully clothed, as if sex had already lost its meaning. He told me I could stay as long as I needed. He kissed my forehead. Called me brave. And for one brief second, I believed him. But when I woke up the next morning, reality was waiting at the foot of the bed like a threat. Daniel had texted me, "Come home. We need to talk." No anger. No insults. Just 5 words that made my stomach twist. I stared at the message all day. When I finally walked through our front door, everything looked untouched. Too untouched. Like a stage set for a version of our marriage that never existed. Daniel was sitting at the table, his face unreadable. "I need to know everything," he said. "Or nothing. You choose." And I told him. Every ****ing thing. I told him about the couch. The car. The messages. The silence I kept wrapped around me like a second skin. I told him how I hated myself more than he ever could. I expected him to scream. To leave. To cry. But he just listened. Numb. Quiet. Distant. When I finished, he nodded. Just once. "I can't unhear this," he said. "I know. I won't hit you. I won't shame you. But I can't look at you the same way again." My heart cracked open in a way even Callum never managed. "I understand," I whispered. "You don't," he replied. "But you will." And he walked out of the house we built together, key still on the hook. I tried going back to Callum. But something had shifted. The fantasy didn't survive the truth. He stopped returning my texts. Told me, flatly, that it was unethical to continue anything with a former patient. Unethical. That word haunted me more than the affair. I was left with silence. A marriage destroyed. A man who once took notes on my trauma now too professional to return my calls. And a version of myself I didn't recognize anymore. Weeks later, I sat on the same couch in a new therapist's office. A woman this time. She asked me to describe the moment everything changed. And I said, when I started confusing being seen with being loved. She nodded. Scribbled something down. And for once, I didn't ask what it was.